Hi YouTube fam and friends, this is Kat, and today with Kat's 7 Corners, I'm going to leave the screen red like this, so that you can hear the power in a voice and how a voice alone can be used to hopefully move and reach and touch and bridge and relate. It's going to be Cafe Clutch with rawness in life. I woke up in quite a funk, and depth and sharing. For anyone out there, this might help, and sharing this might in some way help me too. I used to be a grief counselor for Rainbows, which is a group in the Catholic Church that has to do with grief and recovery for someone who has either lost a mate or who has gone through divorce, or for children that have lost a parent through divorce or death. And I actually did the Rainbows grief counseling for children who have either lost a parent or who have gone through death of a parent through divorce or through physical death. As you can tell, like I said, I'm in a funk. I'm talking not my normal self. It's been so much for all of us this past year plus with COVID, but recently I found out someone that I used to be in a dating relationship with about 11 years ago, in 2010, that his son died about a year ago, and it's really hard because, you know, when you date someone who has kids, they, you know, should, as proper, touch your heart and become a part and a bridge with you. And to find out recently, there was an accident, and anyway, he was probably about 20, 21 when he died. And wow, it's just weird to think that you were so close to someone, and you get close to his child, and then with a relationship not working out, of course you still have those feelings for the kids that you were bonded with. And to find out that someone died and you didn't know, it was so odd to find out, because I actually, a year ago, thought about getting in touch just to talk to my ex-boyfriend of all those years ago, and I didn't. You know, it took me recently to re-get in touch, and that's when I found out through my ex-boyfriend's mom. And it's weird. It's weird and painful and sad. I used to play basketball and football with this kid and his dad, and we used to do so much. We used to go to parks, and I see him as the young boy he was. Of course, when I mentally see him, because I didn't know him as an adult. Once we broke up, we went our separate ways, and in that particular relationship, it was good to have space and time. And so bizarre to, I always think when someone passes that you were close to and you don't feel it. Anyways, it's a weird thing. This isn't at all to highlight me in the funk. It's to share a place of grief that maybe hasn't been explored when you find out the news so much later on. Anyways, I also recently know of 3 other kids who have passed, and one was unexpected, complete, an 11-year-old. I was with a person. I didn't know the kid, but I was with someone to help her through a surgery, and she let me know that her mom was working at a Catholic church, and the child ended up getting cardiac arrest just after the plane, an 11-year-old, and died, dropped dead. And I recently found out about a baby that just passed away 4 months, but in China I did not know the baby or family, but I knew people who did. And I'm like, why these young lives? You know, why children? Why the grief of a parent having to go through that? I don't have an answer. You know, I love God. I have no doubt He's real. 100% know the truth of Jesus. I have no doubt. But I don't have an explanation, of course, for many things, and quite a big one. When a child dies, it's like, why, God, why? Or an accident happens. I know we have free will and choice, and God can heal and restore. It's just so unfathomable, though God gave His own Son, is the only best way I can relate it. God gave Jesus, who was His Son here on earth, 100% man, 100% God, which is one of the great miracles. Mary was conceived through the Holy Spirit of the Lord, and she was a virgin and gave birth to Christ, God's Son. And God's grief for His own Son, knowing the pain He would have to be being a man here on earth and enduring the suffering and the ridicule and the pain, physically, mentally, emotionally. You know, to have a child, you want to protect them at all costs. Normally, a healthy parent would, and do anything to stop harm coming for them. And God did the opposite. He actually gave us on earth His Son, knowing Jesus would be tortured, knowing Jesus would be crucified. So, although I don't have an explanation of why children or young people die, all all I can say is that I know God understands our pain, and I know that God Himself went through it to show us how much He loves us. Because through God giving His own Son, and His Son accepting the mission of the life and of being crucified on the cross, I think people forget that Jesus had a choice too, not only Mary to say yes or no. Jesus and Joseph had a choice to be a step-parent. He could have abandoned Mary, but he was a stepdad to Christ. He's not highlighted enough or talked about enough at all. Joseph's role, what a man of honor. And Jesus prayed before being crucified, Father, if this can be taken away from me. He didn't want to be crucified, but he wanted God's will more than his own. So, for anyone who's lost someone unexpectedly, going through grief, for death and recovery, especially if anyone's lost a child, I don't have the answer. Even though I have a background in grief counseling and helping those who've gone through grief, I don't have an answer other than to say I know God knows the pain. God knows that because He went through it in giving us His own Son. And why did God go through that? God did that because it was the only way for mankind to be redeemed, to have a relationship with God again, through our own sin, through our own selfishness, through our own greed, through our own me, through our own separation that we do, separating God from our lives in our rebellion, our ego, our pride. He knew not only of the temptation and the devil and the ways of separating that way, but we in our own sense of self separating. And it was His way to show us that in His all-powerful and all-knowing, all-creating self that God is, in His supernatural state, He came in the human side, saying, I know the road is hard. I know that life is messy. I know there's pain and suffering. I know there's tears, says God. I have them too. He's an emotional God. Jesus cried. Jesus laughed. God in heaven has His jealousy. He has His wrath. But more importantly, He has His love. He has His goodness. It doesn't feel good. And it doesn't feel like love in action to have someone you love taken away. All I can say is we are all here temporarily. This is not our permanent home. Our permanent real home is supposed to be heaven. And for those who say yes to Jesus, get to enter heaven. We're all here passing through. kind of like a bus stop, and you get on the bus, and some people might get up the bus a block later, and other people get to enjoy the bus ride, if you can call it enjoyable, for miles and miles. And some of us have the gift of life, of it being for maybe days or passing in utero. Maybe like my ex-boyfriend's child for a couple decades. Or maybe like people who get to age into being 100. I don't have the answer. Grief and emotions, even though when they hurt and they're confusing and you don't understand, they're actually a beautiful thing. Because it shows we're not robotic. It shows we have hearts and we care. And if our tears, if our pain is this way, in its rawness, imagine God's pain. He loves us so much, and He wants us to be bridged in a relationship with Him. And so many people in the world have turned away. So I hope you pray with me and just join me right now in healing grief, Lord, for people, please, who have lost a loved one at any age, from in utero all the way, God, through being 120 plus. And even though I cry these gifts of tears, I thank you for being a person that can feel, that has joy and laughter, as well as not putting up walls on either side, trying to get through. And pain shows care and love. I pray for anyone going through pain right now of grief, that it's healed to feeling the embrace and love of our Father in heaven, in the name and body of Jesus, and that you will know in our future, when we leave this temporary place, this dwelling, until we enter our place in heaven, you will get to see your loved one again. If you choose Jesus, you will. And I just pray for anyone who doesn't know what that means, that you allow Jesus to enter your heart and your life, and you just say, God, wherever you're at, come into my heart, Jesus. Forgive me of all sins. For those that know you and don't know you, you just can even say in disbelief. If someone doesn't believe, can say, I don't know if you're real. Show me you're real, and I invite you in if you are real. I can say, I do believe, and make my faith grow. But invite Jesus into your heart and your life. Acknowledge Him. Say, Lord, help me, change me, grow me into your ways. I give you my life as you gave your life to me. Forgive me of my sins, and help me turn away from them to become the person you want me to be. And saying that prayer of inviting Jesus into your life and asking for forgiveness of sins, accepting the gift that God gave you of His Son in heaven, so He could be a bridge to have a relationship with again. Means Jesus didn't die in vain. Means all the torture and the persecution He received in life and on that cross had purpose, the purpose that God wanted Him to have, that Jesus Himself wanted to have by going through with it, that Mary and Joseph said yes to with the challenges and knowing their son and Joseph's stepson would go through a life of such pain and turmoil in the end and rejection. God knows our pain, so why does God take a child? I don't know. I don't know. But I know God enough to trust Him and to know that He knows best. Why does God not intercede in miracles for everybody and heal everybody who needs it? Especially everybody who truly does have the faith. It's not about a doubt of faith. I don't know. I don't know. But when you know God, you just have to trust Him, no matter how painful it is. Anyways, I guess that's it for today. Alright, guys. And there is goodness and joy and hope and purpose in the world, and for those who are going through grief, give yourself a break. I have to tell myself, okay, Kat, maybe I'm not doing things as one would do without grief. Maybe I'm all over the place lately. Maybe I'm extra sensitive right now. But you know what? We're all human. We all make mistakes, and grief has a lot of different places. But God can take it all. Every drop of a tear we cry, He collects. In fact, I like to think God kisses it. God does know best. And again, we'll be with the people on the other side. In heaven, this is only temporary here. Okay, everybody. Raw but real. Bye for now.